So let's talk about reject modernity, embrace fitness, health, discipline. I made one of these reject modernity, embrace X videos for quite a specific reason. So one, like honestly, these videos do get me a little hyped up. I do respect the grind and the hustle and the admiration that comes with a lot of high performers within fitness and things like that. But I think there's one part of the video that I don't really like. So if you've seen these videos, if you literally go on YouTube and search reject modernity, and something will come up. And I really like the positive empowerment of men and women. So often they're just focused at men, but I love the ones that focus on the empowerment of women as well. They're great. But I think the majority of them are focused on men, and I think they're aimed towards largely men. And I can see why, because like I get hyped when I watch them. Whether it's like videos of men running into a flaming building, or firefighters running into a flaming building, or soldiers, or a CrossFit athlete or a powerlifter. So I made one with athletes that I respect, but secondly, it doesn't start off with hate. It starts off with being undisciplined in your own. So I used this character of the doomer, right? So the doomer is, I think, a much better place to start when it comes to these kind of videos. Because if you start with the judgment of others, basically, like one of the categories would be fat shaming. If you're starting from the judgment of others, then I don't think that's a great place to pursue a fitness journey. And let's say it's not fitness. Let's say it's just the pursuit of self-development overall. The reason I made a reject modernity, embrace health and fitness video was because I think there's a problem in the genre. And like it is a genre, there's hundreds of videos made like this. The reason I made this is because half of the videos are based on the fact of you don't want to be fat because being fat is bad. You don't want to be feminine as a man because that is bad. And these kind of tropes, I think, are... So I work with, as a personal trainer and a health coach in primary care, I work with obese individuals, and I help obese individuals lose weight. And never once have I thought I should just give them a little bit of hate. No one gets inspired by that. The things that I see that make progress I've been astounded at how much progress. I've only been working in this position for about 2 months. And I've been astounded at how much the effect of love and support and encouragement, along with like accountability, can have on someone. So let's say you go to your friend and you say, man, you really need to lose some weight. You look like shit. So let's compare that kind of judgmental looking down upon someone. Let's compare that to, hey man, how are you going? Like maybe they bring it up. Maybe you talk about, man, I've been feeling so good recently. I was really struggling to get to a healthy place, and now I'm finally at a healthy place. And you show some vulnerability. And then you say to them, how are you going, dude? How are you? You've shown vulnerability specifically around health and fitness. They might open up and say, yeah, man, I'm really struggling to not snack. I'm really struggling. Like during Easter, for example, I couldn't stop eating all the chocolate. And it was really, really difficult. And if you think you have the knowledge or the expertise, whether they're a friend or a client, to help them, it should not come from a place of judgment. That does not help anyone. Maybe it helps some people. I wouldn't say it helps no one. But the problem with these reject modernity videos is they start from a place of hate and start from a place of judgment. That's not going to make anyone change. And like you see it time and time again. There's no serious health professional on the planet that thinks, I wish we could just tell clients that they're just fat. And maybe there is. There's probably a lot. But no serious educated health professional or nutritionist, for example, dietitian, who work more specifically with weight loss, none of them are sitting there thinking, man, all they need is a little fat shaming, and boy, would they be on their way. So let's examine why this is a problem. But let's say your friend who's trying to lose weight says to you, man, I'm really just oh man, I fucked up. I fucked up last week because I had the chocolate bar when I shouldn't have. Or, oh, you guys go out for a meal and he gets a meal and you say, shouldn't you get a salad? Then that leads to guilt. Guilt leads to further restriction. So they'll restrict calories and they might make some progress. But then the guilt eventually overwhelms them. And to emotionally cope, they go back to their coping mechanism, food. And like the fact is, it's not easy to lose weight. It's really, really hard. And people who go around saying things like, oh,
because he's disgusting and he's fat and he's lazy and he's addicted to food. We all know it.
Man, if only everyone would just get motivated. There is a very concrete reason as to why the majority of society is overweight. And it's not because everyone is just progressively lazier. That might be a part of it, and I can see the argument for it, but I don't think it's relevant. What's more relevant is the fact that we live in an obesogenic environment. So the environment is conducive to obesity. How is this so? So this is so for a few reasons. Let's say you work a job. Your grandpa was he was a lumberjack, or he was a miner, or he was a construction worker. So quite physical jobs, expending a lot of calories throughout the day. But then you compare that to what you do for work, and maybe you work in an office. So a lot of the time you're sitting. And when you go on your break, oh, maybe there's cake in the break room. That's nice. So you have some cake, you have your lunch, you have some cake on top. That adds a few extra calories. Then you get home, you're really stressed from work because you're working 5 days a week, 40 hours a week at a job you might not like that much. So then you're really stressed and it's hard to find fulfillment because fulfillment is, I think, scarce nowadays. Then we look at the food environment. People are exposed to about 500 advertisements per day to about hyperpalatable food. So hyperpalatable food, meaning it's sweet, it's salty, it's high in fat content, it's high in high glycemic carbohydrates. That is going to taste really, really good. It's going to be really, really delicious and pleasurable to eat, but not very satiating because those kinds of foods don't have fiber, etc. So I think there is an argument. There's a very, very strong argument. This argument has been around for 30 years. But the thing is, the people who argue that it's just about individual motivation have not looked into it. They have never, ever themselves, sometimes it's someone who's overcome obesity through willpower. And that's fantastic. Like, more power to them. But it's often not that simple because let's examine how much misinformation is out there about obesity, about nutrition. Look at the Joe Rogan podcast, for example.
I think a lot of what people are dealing with is inflammation that's caused by too much processed carbohydrates, too much simple refined carbohydrates and sugars.
That if we simply reduce the amount of calories we take in, that we're going to reduce our body fat. But that's not actually true. That's not actually what the equation says.
For the body to function properly. Essential nutrients, carbohydrates. Somehow this was written by an RDN and fact-checked by a PhD.
What do you get? The first diet you're likely to be exposed to on the Joe Rogan podcast is low carbohydrate diets, which aren't necessarily bad and they work for a lot of people. But the majority of people cannot sustain a low carbohydrate diet or a keto diet for a long period of time because we're usually restricting a food group. A good example of a low carbohydrate diet done well is if you look at Cliff Harvey's carb appropriate diet. So it's how many carbohydrates are appropriate for the individual. But for most people, they don't end up counting calories. What they end up doing is restricting food groups. No, I cannot have a donut that does not fit in within my diet. That does not fit within my dietary paradigm. So, I can see how people could make a lot of progress on a diet like that, and they do make a lot of progress. But how much of it is sustainable? Because that's the thing. Weight loss can happen really, really fast, but weight gain happens really slowly over a long period of time because of an accumulation of different effects. And the problem with these reject modernity videos is they're looking at it in this judgmental sense. And so next time you talk to someone who would like to make progress in fitness, whether that's gaining or losing weight or going to the gym consistently, Try to take a more supportive lens. Listen to them first. Ask them questions, don't tell them what to do. If you tell someone what exactly they should do and why what they're doing now is inadequate or they need to be more disciplined, that does not work very well.